I am Candace Price, Talent Acquisition Specialist with Materion, and this is a production for United Voices of Materion. We are actually proud to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, very first time that we're doing this with Materion. So in this celebration, we're going to be discussing the valuable contributions to our economy and the current state of the Hispanic community through this Exchange for Change podcast series. Today, joining us, we're going to have several guest speakers, which I'll introduce in just a moment. But first of all, have you heard of Esperanza? It's a Spanish word, which means hope, but it's also the name of a Cleveland-based nonprofit organization that started in the early 1980s with a mission to improve the educational opportunities for Hispanics. Esperanza is the only nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion and advancement of Hispanic educational achievement. Under our guest leadership, Esperanza has grown and become a leader in addressing the educational needs of Cleveland's growing Hispanic community. The organization has received both local and national recognition for its work, including a 2015 Bright Spot in Hispanic Education Award from the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for Hispanics, and the prestigious Anisfield Wolf Memorial Award from the Cleveland Foundation. Every year, Esperanza is able to award over 100 college scholarships with the support of corporations, foundations, and individual donors. So with us today, we have Maribel Hoffman, Human Resources Business Partner at our corporate headquarters and founding member of United Voices of Materion, along with Victor Ruiz, Executive Director of Esperanza, Inc., located in the Clark Fulton neighborhood of Cleveland's West Side. He's also a certified professional diversity coach who completed a 3-year W.K. Kellogg Foundation fellowship focused on racial equality and healing. Victor serves on several local boards, including Cuyahoga Community College and United Way of Greater Cleveland. He has a coaching and consulting practice working with individuals and organizations around professional development, strategic planning, community engagement, diversity, equity, inclusion, and more. Give us a warm welcome for both Maribel and Victor.
Thank you, Candace, for that lovely introduction. It is really a pleasure to bring awareness to this topic with the help of someone who's actively immersed in the field of education. I've seen firsthand the work of Esperanza and the impact that its programs have in our Hispanic community and beyond. So, Victor, can you tell us more about the work that Esperanza does on a typical day?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Maribel. Thank you, Candice, for having me here and for that amazing introduction and for just celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. A significant population in the United States for from been here since its founding and before that. So thank you. So as Candice said, Esperanza means hope, and we were founded in 1983 by the growing Hispanic community. Our community always finds solutions to our own problems, and an issue back in the early 80s was really to get more Hispanic youth to go to college. And the solution at that time was to create a scholarship program. So what started as a very humble $250 scholarship has grown over the last 4 decades to include wraparound services to ensure that our youth are promoted along the educational pipeline. And not just the youth, but that their families are supported as well. And then once they graduate from high school, to pursue a meaningful path. And if it's college, that includes scholarships and supports in post-secondary to graduate, including internships. And if the person does not choose to go to college, then helping them find a meaningful career or workforce path. So we do a lot of things. We work again, in the near west side in a lot of schools. And we also have a center where individuals can come in and get services from us. So very briefly, that's a little bit about us.
Yes, absolutely. I will say that I have volunteered as an AS mentor with high school students, and then the mentee mentor relationship with college students, and your summer back to school backpack
Mhm.
events. And I can attest that your outreach goes beyond to the Hispanic community.
Mhm.
Every member of the Hispanic community, children of high school and college and even elementary, right?
Yeah.
The client base during the backpack back to school program. So absolutely, the impact is pretty large. The latest data and research shows that the Hispanic Latino population of America is a fast growing demographic and is the second largest racial ethnic group in the United States behind non Latino whites. Projected to reach 111 million people by year 2060. In 2019, the Hispanic population in the United States reached 60.6 million. According to the Bureau of Labor Services, the Hispanic share of the labor force is projected to increase more than that of any race or ethnic group by 2026. And at a time when more and more companies are realizing the value of a more inclusive and diverse workforce, there's also an increased focus on preparing Latino students for the workforce, making sure that they develop competitive skills and strong civic leadership. At a local level, how is Esperanza contributing to equipping our Hispanic student population with the tools that they need to attain higher education and other skills needed to stand out in the job market?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one that we've really been um, reflecting on over the last years. For our founding was based on education, and what we have evolved over the years is that it's education and also career preparation. So for us, one ensuring that the good foundational education is there. So working with students to make sure that um, they address those barriers to getting a good education. Second is advocating on their behalf, so ensuring that our schools provide our students with what they need, that our systems are providing them with what they need, and the parents. And then I think as it relates to careers, something we do a lot, especially with younger students, is one is just raising awareness about the career possibilities that are out there. If you talk to typical students, they're like, well, I have to be a doctor, or I have to be a lawyer, or I have to be a nurse, those types of things, which are great jobs. But I think exposing students to just a variety of jobs that are available and the jobs that are emerging, um, that when they're ready to enter the workforce will be more prominent. So that's that career awareness is key. And then once they're on their career path, either in college or beyond high school, just ensuring that they know how to be prepared to enter the workforce. How do they acclimate themselves to a work environment? Uh, how do they how do they present themselves? That's really important. And also, the other thing we're doing a lot of is working with companies on connecting our students to their internship opportunities. A lot of our students do not have an idea of what the internship opportunities are out there. They do not know what it takes to apply for an internship. And in a lot of cases, they shy away from internships because they feel that they have to work in order to make ends meet. So that working with our corporate partners to ensure that these are paid internship opportunities. And I think it's a win-win for everyone. Our students get that real work career exposure, and our corporate partners get a pipeline. They start building out a pipeline of local, diverse, bilingual talent that can help them meet their goals.
That is really awesome. I do remember back in 2010, there was a lot of conversation around the graduation rates for Hispanics in Cleveland. Can you tell us about the changes that, thanks to the work that Esperanza has done, we've been able to increase those numbers?
Yeah, so I think 2010 was a critical point where I think locally and nationally, people really started paying attention to high school graduation rates. And in Cleveland in particular, Cleveland had one of the lowest graduation rates for Hispanic students in the country. And, I think, what we started doing was really ringing the alarm and, helping people understand that when 7 out of 10 of your children do not graduate high school. So the graduation rate was 30%. When 7 out of 10 of your children do not graduate high school, that's a systemic issue. And it's more than just the home or the individual. So really raising that awareness was critical. And, the district, to their credit, listened and they understood. And, you know, um, actually just today I was at the State of the School address from Cleveland School District, and CEO Gordon reported that the graduation rate overall for Cleveland is now 80%, and that the 83% graduation rate for Hispanic students is the best for Hispanic students in the state of Ohio. So that that is a combination of the community coming together um, to really tackle this issue. And also, and other groups are showing improvements as well. So I think nationally, we're starting to see that graduation rate go up. What we're looking at now are these post-secondary um, attainment and promotion rates. So because we're seeing some concerns there as well.
Candace, do you have any questions?
I do. I was just caught off guard by that statistic. Wow, that I don't think I realized that impact to the community with, I mean, if we're not getting basic high school education
Right.
and completing that, you can imagine how that stunts potential for work, for wealth
right.
generation, for so much more. Okay. So, what are some of the challenges that you're currently facing with enrolling Hispanics in higher education programs? Now that we've gotten them,
Yeah.
into a more comfortable rate of completing high school, there's still this challenge of getting them into the higher education program. So, where are some of those challenges that you're facing now?
Yeah, great question. I think there are several, which some of them are common to a lot of different students, but one is financial barriers, or at least perception of financial barriers. Um, you know, people get the sticker shock of college, but you're right. But I think that you know, educating students on on options is really important. The other thing that's unique to our community is that the Hispanic community tends to be a little less likely to pursue student loans. Culturally, the idea of debt is a tough one, so that it really deters a lot of students from either pursuing college or feeling that they have to pay for it out of pocket and prolonging that. And the other is, or, pursuing an associate's degree through community college, which is great. I think one of the things we're trying to say is that, associate's degree is wonderful. And what else is there? So how do you continue beyond that? But that's one, is the financial or the perceptions. And then there are still some legitimate family responsibilities and the need to enter the workforce right away. So, part of our education is not saying don't enter the workforce, but is how do you do this at this, how do you do this together? And that's why I think those paid internships are so critical for our students, because they're able to study, get that career exposure, and then still meet their financial responsibilities.
That's great insight. Now, taking it from the perspective that we at Materion, we do provide paid internships. I don't think it was ever even an option to provide a free internship to
Mhm.
our students, no matter what background they come from. But are you seeing that a lot for the internships that are being offered for your students? Is that maybe they're being underpaid or not paid at all for that learning opportunity?
Yeah, I think we're starting to see a change on the pay side. For a long time, there were a lot of unpaid, and a lot of times the mental. Obviously, in some cases, it was financially tough, especially for small businesses. But in other cases, it was kind of like this prestigious thing. You get access to our company. But what ended up happening was that a lot of wealthier students were the ones who were accessing those internships. But we are starting to see more companies being intentional about paying students. And I think now with a lot of conversations around living wages and equity in pay, you're starting to see that number go up in what students are being offered. So we're starting to see a shift, but we still need more of those opportunities.
That
And
is
these
correct.
challenges aren't unique to the Hispanic community. I
Right.
mean, I would imagine Asian families also have something similar, or other backgrounds. How do you see other ethnic groups coping and dealing with this that may be helpful for the Hispanic community to adopt as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, we certainly, a lot of times we focus on our differences, but we have a lot of times more commonality. And, I think one of the great things about the Near West Side is that it truly is an international community. In our high schools, you'll have over 30 languages working together, coming together, and cultures and ethnicities. So I think for us, our doors are open to anyone, and you particularly see that diversity in our English as a second language classes, where we get a lot of people from obviously Latin American countries, but also Middle Eastern countries, African countries. So, so that finding that commonality around learning English is really important. But I think a lesson that we all should is really just how people want to be here and they want the opportunities, and that we all need to work together to create those opportunities for everyone.
That's great. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass it back to Maribel for more questions.
Thank you, Candace. So, Victor, when I look at the data and I see the majority of Hispanic in the workforce today is mostly concentrated in the service industry jobs, we've made a lot of progress in preparing Hispanics students to formal education to fill professional level jobs across many industries. Now, though more recently, we've seen the number of Hispanic Latino immigrants with college education coming into the United States has increased. We still have a gap to meet the needs of our future. What are some of the things that employers like Materion or other community institutions can do to help continue to prepare Hispanic Latino talent for our collective future as a nation?
Yeah, great. So one of the things I've been sharing with a lot of corporations is, it's for a long time there was just a pipeline ready to enter, the workforce and go to these companies so that, there were more people seeking opportunities and sometimes there were opportunities. I think companies now have to be a little more proactive and involved in helping to create their pipeline. And that starts at an earlier age than typically. So I think these intentional outreaches to diverse communities, educating people about the company and what it means to work at a company like Materion, and also what the benefits are and what they're looking for. I think that's really important. Getting your diverse talent like you and Candace to come out and introduce the community. So it's relationship building. I think, long way of saying relationship building. And I think that's really critical if companies want to bring in local talent. I think it's really important that they do that outreach and that relationship building. Um, it's a long-term strategy, but I think it'll pay off event in the long term.
Yeah, so I would say that relationship building early on so that students or like thinking about the programs that Esperanza offers. And back in the day when you probably still do have professionals coming in to talk about,
Hmm.
to high school students about the different career path that they could be interested in. So I can see where that really is something that really contributes to students selecting professional level jobs or career path. Away from more of the service industry. And corporations do really need that professional, diverse talent, right? And when we have a group, of immigrants or Hispanics or minority that is mostly focused on service industries, I think corporations really miss a lot of that talent and the attributes that having a diverse employee population brings to the company, and also those traits that us as Hispanics, loyal, hard workers, right?
Hmm.
Very resilient. So we can miss a lot at the corporate level, these types of industries when we don't cater enough to this diverse talent in our communities.
Agreed. Yeah.
Candace, any questions for Victor?
Yeah, so I just want to jump in really quickly because you made a great point. Relationship building is key. I think that's going to be key for any organization, but specifically for Materion. So what we've noticed though is that there are some people and sometimes where we just are not aware of the problem. We're not aware that this is even an issue that, again, I didn't know those stats until I heard them in this podcast. So if we want to learn more to help our community, and not just in Cleveland, keep in mind, these can be issues across our nation. And Materion has several plant locations, whether it be New York or Albuquerque or Milwaukee. We have them all over the country. So, where can we find out more information? What are some of the resources that we can use to learn more so that we can help to build those relationships and begin that outreach process where we are?
Yeah, great question. I would start internally, tapping into your staff and your employees and just start, getting, finding out what their community is, what's interesting to them. I'm a big proponent of employee resource groups at companies because they're the ones who bridge the community with the corporation. Um, and a lot of the success we've had with a lot of companies, it's because of these employee resource groups who've been advocates and have, really, created that relationship. So I would say easiest thing is start internally and just finding out who makes up the community at Materion and who their community is outside of that and start tapping into that.
That's definitely a great suggestion. And as part of the United Voices co-founding members, that's definitely something we're aiming to do. We're fairly new with employee resource groups here at Materion, and we have about 4 that are up and running right now. But the goal is to, one, strengthen those 4 to really create opportunities for each of those employee resource groups to have a presence at all of our locations, at least domestically to start, and continue to build them, grow them, and continue the outreach efforts as well as the impact to the employees. So it's good to know that those are key ways to build that bridge and to help our own communities as well from the experience you've seen.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to pass it on to Maribel for our final question of the evening. Thank you so much for just answering our questions so far. You've been a great speaker.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Have been great interviewers. So
But before we finish our conversation, do you have any parting thoughts or reflections on the celebration of the Hispanic Heritage Month, or how the community is doing? Anything that you can give us?
yeah, I think, just a couple thoughts. One, the Hispanic community has a lot of diversity within our own community. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to learn about not just what makes up Latinos in America, but also what makes up Latino identity in general, from the countries that we represent, uh, political, from political to cultural, and how it comes here. So that's one. And I think the other, and I mentioned in the beginning, is that, the Latino Hispanic community has been part of this country from its founding and before. So really, um, understanding that Latino history and heritage is part of American history and heritage is really important. So thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to engaging further and finding ways to connect further and grow our relationship.
Absolutely. I think there is a lot that we can accomplish as partners with the interest that Materion has in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the emergence of employee resource groups and their interest in really making some impact in the community. There's really, you're really pretty close. We could definitely continue our collaboration. I'm here to stay in the community, as well as helping Materion continue to work towards a more diverse workforce and also a more significant presence in the community. So thank you so much for your time and for the work that you're doing for us in the Hispanic community. Any final thoughts, Candace?
Absolutely. So, just learning about all of the things that Esperanza does in the community, all of the ways that you're making a difference, you're making an impact, but also how you need help. And I think it would be a huge opportunity for the employees who get a chance to watch this video if they feel so inclined to donate to that cause. So, we're definitely going to include the link to Esperanza so that members, employees can, one, learn and verify, see for themselves, but also to give, to have an opportunity to support and to include that. And United Voices is going to lead the way with our very own donation to the group as well.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
we are very happy to support and to continue that work effort. And as Maribel mentioned, find other ways that we can partner and to help. Roll up our sleeves and do whatever we can. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you for
much.
your time, Victor. See you soon.
Yeah, thank you.